Fruit trees are becoming a very interesting commodity for people to plant, especially with local foods. We look at apples, peaches, and pecans are crops that people look at for planting. However, planting ahead of time is going to be crucial. One of the biggest things they need to consider is how much space do they have available. If we will look at a pecan tree at maturity, that tree will take up about 1/8 of an acre. If we look at a traditional apple tree, it would take up a large area. However, we have dwarfing rootstocks that are available now, where people can plant apple trees on a relatively small scale. Peach trees are a nice option as well. However, the trees that we have now are still large trees and require much more area. The first thing we have to look at is planting them in full sunlight. They are not a plant that you put on the side of the garage or side of the house that receives shade a large portion of the day. So the bottom line is all fruit crops we recommend being planted in full sunlight. The soil is another example. It's not out of sight, out of mind. Where the roots are going to be planted is crucial. We need to make sure those soils are well drained, and it won't be an issue with foundations of homes and/or buildings. It is also important to understand where your utilities are, whether it be cable, electric, water, sewer lines, and make sure that you do not cut into those lines. Realize that all tree fruit crops are perennial crops, and you will not get fruit off those trees for the first 3 years. In North Carolina, I would suggest planting trees during the dormant season, usually between January and March. All of our fruit trees are grafted onto a rootstock. There is a graft union that will be approximately 3 to 4 inches above the soil line. And it's important to know what rootstock that you're planting those trees on. Many people will look for a variety on top, which we would call the scion variety, but they fail to recognize that the rootstock is equally as important. I prefer planting trees as bare roots. Whether you purchase your trees from a nursery or whether you buy them through mail order, it is important to ask several questions that they must answer before I purchase a tree from them. I would want to have the variety that I want, that is well adapted to my climate, and they should be able to tell me the rootstock that that tree is grafted onto as well. If I was going to be looking at peaches to plant my yard, the 2 top varieties I'd be looking for would be Contender and China Pearl. Both those varieties are developed at North Carolina State University and have long chilling requirements, which means that they will bloom later in the season, hopefully minimizing some of the frost and freeze issues that we have in North Carolina. Another important consideration with peaches is to plant them on guardian rootstock if you're growing them in North Carolina on light sandier soils. If you're considering apples, it's important to plant varieties that are going to be resistant or tolerant to fire blight. Fire blight is a bacterial pathogen that will kill an apple tree within a season. If I'm going to be looking at planting apples in a home setting, I would be looking at using dwarfing rootstocks, trees that would only go 10 to 12 foot tall. In North Carolina, we plant improved varieties, which they're large fruited pecans. We realize that pecans will grow up into Illinois, the Midwest. However, they are cold tolerant varieties. They have smaller nuts, harder shells. In North Carolina, we want to look at varieties that would tolerate our shorter growing season compared to places like Texas and/or New Mexico. Another more obscure or possibly lesser known fruit crop would be figs. We're standing beside a fig bush here. I've always used the adage that if you can't grow figs, you might want to consider woodworking, because they are an easy plant to grow. They are grown in their own roots. You plant them, they grow well, they'll have fruit within the first several years. The only challenge is that if we get temperatures around 10 to 14 degrees Fahrenheit, it'll kill the tree back. However, we mulch the bottom 18 inches with leaf mulch in the fall of the year. And if we get freezing temperatures, we pull the mulch away, we cut the tree off that level, and we grow it. The only challenge with figs on sandier soils is making sure you don't have nematodes, which will be fatal to a fig tree. So the 2 varieties we usually would recommend would be Celeste or Brown Turkey, which are readily available. You can purchase trees from a nursery, or you can find a friend that grows a tree of the proper variety. You go out to their tree this time of the year, find a young sucker that comes up, grab it at the base of the tree, and yank it out. At that point in time, we have a new fig plant. We have roots on there, and we have the top. You plant this, cut it back to approximately 18 inches, and you have a fig tree. If we look at fruit trees, they will require fertilization every year. They're going to require training and pruning every year. They'll also require some type of insect and disease management. For more information, you can look at my website under comprehensive resources, and we have many different publications and videos that describe many of these in greater detail.